Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to your latest instalment of the Gersnet Weekly Podcast, hosted by myself, Craig Gray. We are the independent Rangers podcast made for fans by fans, and all of our content is absolutely free as always. You can get us over at gersnet.co.uk, where you can have access to our forum, some great articles, and a wonderful history archive as well. You can also get us over on Twitter at Gersnet Online. We are live tonight on YouTube, and in the coming days, we will be on all of your usual podcast providers such as Spotify and iTunes as well. Just before I introduce my guest this evening, I need to give a shout out to our partners over at Forrest Precision Engineering. They are a subcontract Glasgow-based engineering company and have been a big commercial supporter of Rangers for many years. We're absolutely delighted that they're backing our podcast. You can get them over at forestprecisioneng.com. And you can also visit the Forrest Precision Executive Lounge, a stunning new hospitality area within the historic main stand. For information on how to book this unique and intimate space, you can email the club via hospitality@rangers.co.uk. Joined tonight by Mr. Ben Harshaw. Ben, how are you doing on this Friday night?
Yes, not too bad, Craig. Thanks for having me. Haven't been on for a while, so glad to be back on.
Yeah, same here. It's definitely good to be back on, and we've got a lot to discuss. It is a season of goodwill. We seem to receive a wee bit of goodwill by Mr. William Collum in the last couple of days, offering up his explanation for that penalty incident at Hampden on Sunday. That is really the only place we can start. Just your thoughts on that situation overall?
Yeah, I mean, he did what he had to do in terms of telling us what we already knew. However, it doesn't help us. It doesn't change the situation. It doesn't take a trophy off a certain team and give one back to us, or doesn't refund tickets spent by fans who go to a game that the outcome was wrongly influenced, potentially. So yeah, great. I suppose you could say you're vindicated, but we knew that. The whole world knew that. I'm sure even I'm sure some Celtic fans would even manage to admit that was clear as day. So yeah, good to hear it in a way, but like, what does it do? How does it help us? It doesn't.
No, I know what you mean. I did say on Sunday that I was a wee bit annoyed by the amount of Rangers fans going on about it, which is quite ironic considering I'm going on about it tonight. But, I understand why fans are aggrieved. As you say, we've spent money going to these games, whether it's in person or even if you're paying a subscription to watch it on the telly. The last four Old Firm Cup finals, they've all been decided by either one goal or penalties. And in three of those cup finals, we've had, in my opinion, incorrect decisions go against us that potentially has cost us the game. The club obviously released a statement to the media earlier this week in response to the comments made by Willie Collum. Clement spoke about it at the press conference today. There's a lot of people going on about the club's response, maybe saying that they've not went in hard enough. What was your overall thoughts on how we responded to it?
I mean, I can understand where people are coming from, but at the same time, what can you do, really? I mean, you're not going to get the game replayed. I don't believe football games should be replayed after the fact, personally. So what can the club? They've come out. They've tried to defend themselves rightly. They've tried to stick up for the club, for the fans, and for the game in general. I mean, one thing that you would say is, like, our league gets put down all the time. It's no good. It's this that game itself was a fantastic advert for the game. There'll be extra eyes. It's a cup final. There'll be extra eyes watching it. From outside of Scotland. And it's a brilliant game. But what's the one thing that makes the league look amateur? Is the refereeing. Is that level of a mistake at that level makes us look amateur, makes the league look amateur, makes the whole product a bit amateur again. So the club, it's a difficult one because you can look at it both ways. You can say they didn't go far enough, but on other occasions, the time before when we had actually said that we didn't want a certain referee to be refereeing the games, I didn't think that was the greatest way of going about things. In terms of, I think that just alienates you further. Unfortunately, we have to work within this framework and with these powers to be, and continually alienating them isn't going to get us anywhere. Although you could argue that we're not getting anywhere either way. But yeah, I think the club have done what they had to do. I think you can have little expectations. What is the real outcome? I mean, what do you yourself think we really could have achieved? We know Wigan was what it was. It was wrong. It was embarrassing. But you're not going to get it reversed after the fact. So where do you go with it? What do we expect? What can we get from
Yeah,
that?
I know we're kind of in a no-win situation because it doesn't matter what response you give, the outcome's going to remain the same. So, you made an interesting point there about the reference to the incident in the New Year game last year where we did come out all guns blazing. But again, did anything happen after we went out all guns blazing? No. So if we done it again today, what's going to happen? Nothing's going to happen. I think, for me, it is all about communication, consistency, trying to get the decisions right. I mean, there's fans there of the other team in Glasgow that we can quite clearly see that from the responses the last few weeks, or the last few days, sorry, these guys don't want consistency. They want decisions to be made in their favour and in their favour alone. You know, but that's just the way that those people are, unfortunately. I want consistency. I hold my hands up when we don't get we get decisions that aren't in our favour that that we shouldn't get. I hold my hands up at that. Also, expect the same back, and I just think as Rangers supporters, it doesn't seem to happen. Everybody likes to make a laugh and a joke when we are on the wrong side of these decisions. It's fine, I get it. People are overall jealous of Rangers as a club, but it's kind of like maybe try and put that same respect when it happens on the other foot as well, which I don't think happens. But I've slagged off the club's hierarchy for long enough this season. But to be fair to them, although it is a new person in charge at the moment, I don't really know what more they could have done. To be fair to Willie Coleman, that's not a statement I ever thought I'd see myself making. But he has came out and he has explained the decision. He has said it's unacceptable. That is kind of a first in these circumstances of an Old Firm game where the game has probably been decided on a massive, massive error by not one, not two, but three referees, two of them who have had a chance to look back at the incident. And we heard the audio as well from it. And it almost just seems as if it was brushed aside, despite the fact that you hear a voice in the background saying that's a penalty, whoever that was, I don't know. But then that comment, Ben, where it said it's more outside than in, well, it doesn't matter if it's 1% in. If it's 1% in, it's in the box and it's a penalty. So, honestly, with John Beaton missing it, it's kind of fair enough if you're on the pitch making that decision. But for the two guys in the VAR room to have the benefit of looking back on that, I just don't understand how they've missed that, to be quite honest.
No, you touched upon earlier at the start of the podcast. You touched upon the fact that there's been previous games and we've been on the wrong end of decisions, and particularly the one that comes to me was the last League Cup, or sorry, the League Cup final before last, where Julian scores a goal that's offside, and VAR wasn't in existence then. So yes, I was annoyed, obviously, and raging, and it shouldn't happen. But I can almost accept that as human error. When you've got VAR and you've got the pictures that we've all got, and two professionals are looking at it, there's no excuse for that. There's no excuse. You get that is your sole job, to be there to do it. I mean, how can you say it's more out than in? I mean, if it's in, it's in. It baffles. But yeah, I you can't accept that. And when I look at what would we want the club to do, or what would we be hoping for? No, the game's not going to be replayed, all that. But I personally think that those referees should lose their jobs, because it's not a mistake. I don't blame John Beaton. I understand from his viewpoint that he couldn't see exactly where it was, but he doesn't have the ability to watch it back on a screen. He doesn't have the technology. That is their sole job. That there's no excuse for that. That's fine on the pitch, heat of the moment, only gets to see it once, fine. But there's no excuse, and for there to be two of them as well. It's not like it's one person and he's not concentrating or something. There's two of them there. They're well paid. This is their job. It's a major cup final. Two biggest teams in the country, and it's embarrassing. But to me, that's negligence. Like you just failing to do your job on a massive scale. And you've had a massive outcome in a game at a stage. Obviously, we don't know what the result would have been had we got a penalty. We could have missed it, but had we gone there and got a penalty at that stage in the game and scored, there's a very good chance we'd have been lifting the cup. So yeah, that's the thing that I think it's inexcusable from them. This whole thing about it being it's human error and it's anything involving people is going to have mistakes. Well, then let's go back to not having VAR. I hate VAR personally. I've always hated VAR. Never wanted it. I think it ruins football. But if we have it, then that excuse about there's still going to be human error involved. Human error can happen in terms of me judging. You and me look at a tackle and you think it's a red, I think it's a yellow. That's fine. But whether somebody is inside or outside or is on a line or is not on a line, there's no argument to be had there.
No, you're right. For subjective decisions, there can be human error, but this isn't a subjective decision. And Willie Collum actually mentioned that. And one thing that I didn't realise is that it shouldn't even have went. No. John Beaton shouldn't have had to review the decision. It's one of those ones where he should have been told in his ear, that's a penalty, it's inside the box, you must give the penalty. So he doesn't even need to go to the monitor for it.
There's no judgment for him to make. He doesn't have to go over there and decide anything. Like, is there enough contact, is there whatever? It's black and white. He's either in or he's not in the box, and they make that decision. So yeah, that's where VAR should work automatically. And actually, that's the only instance where VAR I'm kind of in favour for it, where it doesn't slow the game down because he doesn't have to go over to a monitor or whatever. It just is a fact that they're able to say yes, he's in the box, penalty.
Yeah, I know you mentioned your opinion on what their position should be, but one thing that I will say, Ben, is that say something happened, before the game that meant that neither Alan Muir or Francis Connor could referee. Say both of them were caught in some bizarre joint injury or something like that, right? And they had to draft in, a semi-professional or a very inexperienced referee. See if he made that decision. Is he going to get to referee a high-profile game ever again?
No way. Absolutely.
No way. And Colin did reference it, that reading between the lines, they clearly have been dropped this weekend. But the likelihood is that in a few weeks' time, these guys will be back officiating in the big games in Scotland again. The thing with me is, if you're at your work and you make a mistake, okay, that's fair enough. Mistakes can happen. You're retrained, etc., etc., etc. But there are just some things that in certain jobs you just can't do, and that's the end of the road for you, regardless of whether it's innocent or anything like that. If I made a mistake in my company that brought this level of really bad publicity to the company, rightly or wrongly, you would probably get sacked. The thing is, I'm not particularly in favour of people just losing their jobs on a whim, but at the same time, it's like, if Ian Maxwell's saying that there's going to be human error, by that, admission, these guys will probably make mistakes again if there's going to be human error. So what happens in that case if this relearning, this retraining doesn't work? What do you do then? The problem we've got in this country, Ben, is we have got a shortage of referees for numerous reasons. People don't want to do it. They don't want the trouble that comes with it. And it's just like, what can you do? I'm actually really proud of the club this week, and that's not something that I've said a lot recently. But in terms of the way that we've handled it, Ali McCoy's mentioned earlier this week, you've got the Celtic chairman making jokes about penalty Rangers at their, AGMs all the time, and these daft conspiracy theories by the guys that, it just seems to get brushed aside always by people up here. Um, I think we've personally done the right thing. We've rightly came out and we've said something about it, because how can you not? But I think the way that we seem to have, wanting to move forward in terms of, engagement, communication, trying to make things better, that's good, because it's not just about us here, it is about the whole of Scottish football as well. Because me, as a Scottish football fan, as I said earlier, I want consistency across the board. Obviously, I am angry, I am annoyed that this decision has went against us, and it's probably cost us a cup again. But at the same time, I can also step back and say that I want everyone to try and benefit from this. And
Yeah.
I really, really hope that that can happen, although I'm a massive cynic and I just can't see it happening, sadly.
No, I mean the way we've gone about it has been dignified, is the way that I would say. We've been forceful enough, we've made our point, but we haven't been sensationalizing it, and really you could be trying to point score on this. I mean, the one thing that I would say is, I want, like, same as you, is I want consistency, and I don't want to win a game, in that way. I don't want to accept a league by Zoom during a major pandemic. I want us to win things properly and on the football pitch. But the one thing that I would say is, had that been completely the other way around, and they had a knock at the penalty in exactly the same way, and we'd end up winning on penalties, you would have heard a heck of a lot more about this week. I mean, all I've heard for the most part, yes, it's been mentioned, the penalty, but all you've been hearing about is, Brendan Rodgers' great record in the Old Firm and how many trophies he's won, James Forrest and all these things. But you haven't heard half enough about how they won that, and it's 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 ridiculous in comparison. But I think we have held the standards of the club that we should, and have conducted ourselves in the right way. We could have gone flown off the handle about it, but I thought Patrick Stewart spoke quite well as well on it, when he first came in. So I think we've approached it in the right way. We've got what we had to get, which was the apology or the recognition. But yeah, I don't see what more we could have got, but I think I'm proud of how the club has conducted themselves, and I haven't, similar to yourself, I haven't been happy with how the club has been run of late. So hopefully this is a step forward, in terms of running the club and conducting ourselves well as well.
Yeah, I hope so. And the thing is, fans will go mental at this sort of stuff, but I mean, it's football fans, you're kind of allowed to go a wee bit mental. Let's be honest, we're all like that. But I think the way in which you conduct yourself as a club, you need to do it in the right way at Rangers. That is what makes a club special, in my opinion, is that we should be acting in a way like that, in a way that does befit us. So I think we've personally gone about it the best way that we could. Whether it actually has the desired outcome in terms of moving forward, and hopefully there's consistency across the board, it remains to be seen. But then again, it's like, if we came out and done the whole burn everything to the ground, I think regardless of what our approach was going to be, it probably would have had the same outcome. I mean, it's an interesting point you make as well about the sort of, the great record in Old Firm games and stuff like that. I mean, I was counting earlier, off the top of my head anyway, since VAR was first introduced in Old Firm games, there's been 9 sort of game-changing decisions or potential game-changing decisions, and we have had one of them go in our favour, and that was remember the Fabio Silva penalty in the free each game?
Yes, that's right. Yeah,
fouled him. It still was a penalty, by the way, because it's a foul, but that one did go in our favour. But then 2 minutes later, that was cancelled out by the Tom Lawrence foul. That didn't lead to Dessler's equaliser. Another thing that we've not really mentioned is Celtic's third goal with Diamande, because Kuhn makes the same foul on Diamande as Diamande did on Matt O'Reilly in May there. That was given as a foul and a penalty to Celtic, but this was given as a foul and a free kick to Rangers. We spoke about consistency there. It just doesn't seem to apply for us at this moment in time, does it?
Yeah, that's the problem. the only thing that you could say has been consistent in those fixtures has been that those VAR decisions have gone against us,
Well,
as you
and
just
that's
kind of highlighted. But yeah, that's all we want. I suppose when you've different referees in different games, you're not going to get the same foul. I can see it from that point of view. But yeah, consistency is all that you want for in any football. A yellow card for one tackle needs to be a yellow card for the same tackle both ways, and vice versa. But yeah, I mean that on another day that's given us the foul as well, no doubt about that. But obviously the main concern for me is the most obvious one that you can make an argument either way for that one, but the one that they've admitted was wrong. There's no argument to be made. We were hard done by.
Yeah, no, I agree. And to be quite honest, if you're a Celtic fan and you're to talk to one of these arguments is about something that happened last century, I think it kind of just shows the weakness of your argument. That you need to go back to when colour television probably wasn't even a thing. To look at the last time that a big decision went in our favour in one of these games, but as we say, there's not really much we can do about it going forward except just hope that we can get that desired consistency that we all want as Rangers supporters. And the thing is, as well, about these games, the last couple of seasons, yeah, Celtic have been running away with the trophies, but in these Old Firm games, generally speaking, it's so close. We were gubbed at the start of the season, which is fair enough, but out with that, the last 2 or 3 seasons, most games have been decided by one goal or penalties, or it's been a draw. And it's big moments, as I say, when you get one game-changing decision in your favour out of 9 in that period of time. Is that what's costing us in these games, generally speaking? There's been a couple, like the last League Cup final we played when Kyogo scored twice. I mean, Celtic just deserved to win that game. Nothing really happened. It's fair enough. The other game at Hampden that season in the semi-final was the same. It just seems to be every time they get that slight advantage, it seems to be because one of these game-changing decisions goes away. The first Old Firm game of last season, Roof's goal, then the New Year game, then the free straw in March, then even the game in May where that penalty's given against Diamande, the Scottish Cup final. All these games that have been decided by either penalties or one goal, and for whatever reason, we just don't seem to get these game-changing decisions in our favour.
Well, I mean, those type of decisions, whether they directly are influencing the outcome, what they are influencing is the momentum of the game. You get a big decision or you don't get a big decision, it boosts one team. And I think it's a combination of those decisions. And then there's no doubt within those games, we have made more mistakes than they have made. We have had more moments. Even look at the cup final. Butland's brilliant all season, and then he's at that moment, that's what cost you the cup. Or we have also they've Diogo's got goals out of nowhere. They take their chances, whereas Dessers doesn't. We don't. We need sort of 5 chances to take the one, whereas they seem capable of just being clinical and taking those chances. So I think it's a combination of the 3. But on the whole, on the most part, we're not far away from them on the day, as long as we are able to be concentrating. And I think what we need to get over that line. Once we get over that line, we get that victory. You would hope almost in a way like what happened with Gerrard was we were trying to get it. Eventually, we got that win, and then we grew confidence. We said, well, we can beat them, and we were able to sort of take control of the game, rather than not an inferiority complex, but we almost go into the game fearing what they're going to do, as opposed to really going out there and saying, right, we're going to impose ourselves. We're every bit as good as them, and we're going to take the game to them and go out there and win the game rather than making sure we don't lose it or worrying about what the opposition's doing. So I think if we can manage in a couple of weeks to get over that line, we really need to. But if we can manage to do it, then I hope, given results of late, not against them, but in general, and performances, and it will just increase the confidence levels in general, and hopefully we're able to be on a run, and then go into those games with no fear. Whether I would imagine if we're going to win the Scottish Cup this season, we're going to have to beat them at some stage. So we want to get confidence by winning the game at home on the 2nd of January, and hopefully go into the future games knowing we can do it, because this is a group of players that haven't done it for the most part. They haven't beaten them, other than some in that end of season game a couple of years ago. That really doesn't matter. But we need to prove it to ourselves, to our fans, and get the belief in the club in general that we can beat them. We've come so close, but we got to get over that line.
Yeah, I think you've made a good point in terms of once we get over that line, hopefully it does become like it was under Gerrard, because I think when we won that game, when Ryan Jack scored after that, Celtic won something like only 2 or 3 in the next 3 or 4 seasons.
Something like that, yeah.
I mean, we dominated that. I mean, that fixture, even the sort of 2 seasons where we didn't win the league under Gerrard, it was 50-50 in terms of the Old Firm games. And one of them, as we mentioned earlier, was that League Cup final that, we got that major call given against us. So then after that, we dominated. We were something like 10 unbeaten or something like that. I can't remember off the top of my head, but we had a brilliant record against them. So, hopefully once we do get over the line, eventually it will almost seem second nature to the players. But one thing that I was just thinking about there that, wasn't on the agenda, but in terms of the manager's sort of position and your thoughts on him overall, we went into that week a few weeks ago against Spurs and Celtic, probably dreading it, thinking we're probably going to get gubbed in both games. We haven't managed to win any of the 2 games, but the level of performance we've seen in both of those games, it's hard to turn around and criticise the players and the manager after the way in which they performed. And we've seen Clement change it up the last sort of 4 to 6 weeks or so. He's more direct, he's getting players back from injury, he's playing the likes of Hagi, and he's changed something, and he seems to be getting a response out of the players again. I think most fans were probably of the opinion after that Dundee United game that he should lose his job. I've kind of been a wee bit camera on it. It was harder for me to justify him staying, but I always said that he should at least see out the season, unless, we were going to get gubbed like 5 and 6 nil off Celtic, in which case he just can't survive that. But for me, I think there's enough there to at least still give him until the end of the season. I don't know what's going to happen in January. To be honest, I don't think we're going to have much to spend. We're going to need to bring a couple of players in. But you personally, Ben, just on the manager's overall position and performance the last few weeks, what have you made of that?
Yeah, I mean, going back to the Aberdeen game away, even at half time, then I was done. I just like he has to go, not necessarily due to results, and not necessarily even due to where we were in the league. It wasn't good enough. However, with the rebuild and with everything that we had to do, I didn't expect us to win the league this season. I honestly didn't. I would have loved it, obviously, but my concern was we were a terrible watch. I couldn't see what we were trying to do. There was no style of play. And then for a couple of weeks there, it didn't. After that, even it was the same. But I have to say, he surprised me this last few weeks, and he's got enough out of the team this last few weeks, and I'm actually enjoying watching us at this minute in time. I mean, I was terrified a few weeks ago going into that last week, but he has got enough out of us. We are playing good football, and in patches at times, and there are shoots of recovery there, and there are signs that he has a plan, and he is taking us in the right direction. Now, I wouldn't say I'm 100% round, and he's saying give him a 5-year contract and he's the man for the future. But right now, I don't have any desire to move him on, which is a big, because I mean I was saying no, this man has to go. But one thing I will say for him is his signings for the most part now are starting to have an impact. Yefte's been a good signing. Igaman, who we weren't sure about, we were told he was this good player, but then he was never available, and then but he's taking his time, he's settled in, and he's looking like the player that we were told he's going to be. So you kind of he's getting the most now out of Diamande, and Raskin's been absolutely excellent lately. So I think the manager is taking steps forward. We need that to continue. I do honestly feel like the January 2nd is a big game for him. I mean, no Rangers manager can continually fail to beat them. You know, he has to get. It's getting over that line. So that's an important game, because, you know, even if we draw that or we lose it, worst happens. You know, then your next one's away, or you're going into a cup game, which could be make or break for your entire season, given the position in the league, and you haven't got any evidence to suggest that that he is going to beat them. So I think that's a really important game for him. But I don't think there's anyone that realistically could have any criticism over the last few, maybe 3-4 performances. With the exception maybe St Johnson, the 1-0 game wasn't the greatest, but you know, we have been improving. We've been playing a lot of football. He's getting players back. He's getting the best out of those players. And you know, no, I don't expect us to bring a whole lot in January. But if you could maybe add 1-2 that are going to again take their time maybe to get in and add to the overall thing with a view to next season, then I'll be pleased enough. So yeah, I'm happy enough at the minute.
Yeah, but that's the thing. You mentioned that you didn't expect us to win the league this season. To be quite honest, I didn't either. And I hate it when people talk about, you know, like mentality of supporters and stuff like that. Like, saying that you don't expect us to win the league doesn't mean that, you know, you're a happy clapper, or, you know, you're happy to see the club in that position.
No.
I think there's a difference between that and just being realistic, you know. And I've said since the start of the season, it wasn't a rebuild, it was a downsizing. Very similar to sort of what happened when we won a treble under Alec McLeish in the next season. You know, we let go of like Sam Russo and Newman and stuff like that. And it was a downsizing, and, you know, that season wasn't great, 03-04, but he built towards something in the next season. We got a lot of sort of, you know, younger players and cheap players, and, you know, guys like Novo and Pulzo and Thomas Buffel, who all made an impact towards a double winning season, and it was memorable in the end. Obviously culminating in Helicopter Sunday. So, you know, maybe that's me just trying to be a wee bit too positive, but, you know, it is what it is. We will talk about tomorrow's game in more depth just in a moment, Ben, but I think I'm really, really interested by this game tomorrow, because we've had a week off. The manager has seen the team that works. I'm very, very interested to see what he goes with tomorrow in terms of, first of all, the starting 11, but also the way in which we approach the game in terms of the performance. Now, if you're going on what we've seen the last few weeks, on paper, we should absolutely batter Dundee tomorrow. Football is never quite that easy though. But I'm actually really looking forward to the game tomorrow, just to see what the response to Sunday is going to be like. Not just for the game, but the fact that this is the first time in a few months that we're going to have a full week to prepare. We've got these players coming back from injury now. Danilo's fully fit, Haji's fully fit, Egeman's firing all cylinders. You know, Matondo and Cortez are starting to come back to fitness. Yilmaz is fully fit again. So we're nearly there in terms of getting our squad back. The manager has changed up. So I'm really, to be honest, I'm excited about getting back to Ibrox tomorrow, and, you know, just seeing, you know, if we really have turned a corner under this guy.
Yeah, I mean, this is a test, because we were on such form, and I'm hoping that we have managed to take more positives and take more actual confidence from last week than the negative. You know, there's the obvious negative, but there's a heck of a difference from getting gubbed 3-0 to going out there and, you know, being the better team in the game. Yes, it's about winning, and we need to do that, but there's so much more to take, and you know, we've competed with, and in my opinion, been better than Spurs and Celtic in the last two games. So we have to take something from that, and we have to take that into the game, and in terms of mentality. But it's also been good, I think, to get the week off. You know, you can look at that from a, you know, we lost a game, and sometimes you won a game immediately, but we lost in penalties, and sometimes I think it's been good. We played a lot of football lately in Europe and in the league as well. So I think it's been good to get that week to sort of decompress from it for the players, and then sort of reset and almost go into this busy festive period fresher. Also, as you touched upon, we had Cortez and Matondo both playing for the B team in the cup final the other night, which was good to see them again. It's more options. No matter what you think maybe about like Matondo, whether he's a long term Rangers player, it's another option that they can give you something. And obviously we have high hopes for Cortez, so hopefully he can get a run. So yeah, tomorrow's an important game, I think, for the squad to show that the last few weeks hasn't been a sort of, it isn't the fluke. It's what we're going to be from now on. So we need to sort of pick up where we left off, and be going. We need to impose ourselves. We're at home to a team that we expect to be comfortably beaten. So what we need to do is not be lethargic and struggle like we have against other teams this season. That Dundee United game, prime example. So yeah, we need to go in there. We need to start with a fast tempo, and if we do that and we play the way we have been playing, Dundee will not be able to live with us. There's no doubt about that. And that's what you expect from Rangers team at home to anyone, let alone Dundee.
Yeah, I think to be quite honest, we keep mentioning that game the 2nd of January, but I think we've got a really good opportunity in the weeks before that. We've got Dundee at home tomorrow, St Mirren and Motherwell away. We all say these places are tough places to go, but realistically, we should still be beating those teams comfortably. On paper, and I stress on paper, 3 easy games. And if you would handpick, 3 fixtures before a game against Celtic, you would probably pick those ones. You couldn't have got much better, to be honest. Because, although Motherwell, to be fair, they've done well this season and they've had a good season. St Mirren maybe not quite as good as they were last season, but their pitches are good as well. It's not like St Johnstone or Killie or anything like that where you've got rates because of a bad pitch. These Motherwell and St Mirren's pitches are in pretty decent nick for the size of clubs that they are, to be fair to them. So Ibrox will be like a bowling green tomorrow. We're playing on 3 good pitches. We can really try and implement a style of play again. And then you go into that game on the 2nd of January, full house, all Rangers fans, and just see what happens. And hopefully the 2nd of January can be a culmination of what the manager has tried to do over the last few months, just finally maybe getting there. And that could be the moment that maybe not just kickstarts our season, but could perhaps reignite his managerial career. We are miles behind Celtic at the moment in terms of the table, Ben. I know you mentioned it earlier, but are you kind of giving up with the league already, or do you still hold out a wee bit of hope?
It's that heart over head thing, but I think realistically, yeah, I think it's gone. I think what we need to do is be laying down a marker and showing them, here, you never know, you get on a run. As you just touched upon, we've been on a good run. We've got 3 winnable games. You get on you extend that run. You get a good feeling about the place, players, fans, everyone together. You win on January 2nd, and you keep going and going and going, and you never know where it takes you. My concern is, I think, to win the league, we need to beat them 3 times. And I don't see us doing it. Hope I'm wrong. But I don't realistically see it, because I just don't see them dropping enough points elsewhere. So that's my concern. But if we're able to continually strengthen and build belief and confidence ahead of next season, and be able to show clearly that the second half of the season we will have matched them or bettered them, then it gives us a heck of confidence going into next season, obviously with hopefully more additions as well.
Yeah, realistically, it's not going to happen, but this is football. And we actually seen last season around this time, Celtic get beat 2 games in a row at home to Hearts and away to Killie. I think the big difficulty is, as you say, we do probably need to beat them 3 times this season. Even if we do beat them 3 times this season, if they match our results, they would still be 2 points ahead of us. So, it's not even in our hands anymore. And that's what is putting me off thinking that we can do anything. But it is football, you never know. We just need to keep going, keep doing what we can do. and hopefully build up a bit of momentum into the 2nd of January and, try and get a result in that game. When I say try and get a result, I mean win. Lastly then, Ben, in terms of the team tomorrow, would you make many changes from the game on Sunday?
Yeah, the only change I would make is the only one that I disagreed with last week. I would have Danilo in the team for Bayrami.
Yeah.
So that's the obvious one. I was disappointed when I saw that last week. I know he scored and all, and it's nothing against him, but I think Danilo was building confidence. The team was playing well. I wouldn't have been making that change going into the cup final. So I would like to see that. And then ideally, we get ourselves into a good position. We take care of the game, hopefully, and then you're able to get some minutes into Matondo, and some minutes into Cortez, with a view to busy schedule coming up, and strengthening that squad again. So that would be the ideal. I wouldn't make many changes. He may go Redvan for Jefty, but I would leave it as it is at the moment. And I think, again, when you look at the discussion that's been Tav or Sterling, Tab's on form, Tab's affecting games at this minute in time. Now is not the time to take him out. So yeah, that's all I would do.
Yeah, I completely agree with that, to be honest, mate. I was a wee bit disappointed that Dino started ahead of Barami last week, but he did score. He did have a big chance as well that would have probably won the game for us, but let's not talk about that. It's Christmas after all. But yeah, that's the only change I would make tomorrow as well. Guys, me and Scott will be back tomorrow after the Dundee game, as usual, at Ibrox, to do a wee press conference report. And Scott will be back on Sunday, you'll be glad to know, with Alan and Stuart to discuss that game tomorrow against Dundee at Ibrox, and also preview Thursday's fixture as well. All that's left to do now is thank my guests for coming on, Ben. It's been a pleasure, mate. Good talking to you.
Yeah. Cheers, Craig. Enjoyed that. And Merry Christmas to all the listeners and fellow Bears out there.
Absolutely. Merry Christmas, guys, and we'll see you soon. Bye-bye.